to some great degree. Now, the Egyptian servant Hagar was forced to bear Abram's seed, which wouldn't become the seed of promise. The irony is that they had a servant from Egypt, or at least Sariah did, and then Yahweh made them servants to Egypt later. Why? Because Yahweh gave Abram a vision and he took things into his own hands. Now, in verses 5 and 6, we see the example spoken of in Ephesians 5:21 through 23. Submit yourselves to one another in the fear of Elohim. Sariah submitted to her own husband, verse 22, because he is the head, verse 23. And Abram submitted to the wife by giving Sariah the decision of how to handle Hagar, her handmaiden. In Ephesians 5:21 through 23 are Elohim's design and instructions for marriage. After 10 years, Sariah and Abram decide to submit an alternate resource to Yahweh's actual plan, because they know the promise is to have a child and they believe it, but they don't know the full plan. Sariah actually blesses her handmaiden, and her handmaiden throws it up in her face. Please remember, in regards to Adam and Abram submitted and Adam didn't. Final key point is Abram shows Sariah, you have as much authority in this situation as I do. So I'm going to give you the authority that you respected me with and tell you, handle it your way. Teachable moment from Apostle is when you read the Bible through the lens of Torah, then you read with greater clarity and understanding. Apostle, back to you, sir.
I am grateful and thank you. We're going to need a reader. Do I get 2 readers tonight, or I got to fight for them?
I can read, sir.
I can read, sir.
So
yeah.
Who is I?
I? Wanda.
Okay, Wanda. Great. I heard another voice. Whose voice was that?
Celia.
All right, Celia, good. Okay, now, guys, need y'all read with some energy for me. And we're going to be going back and forth through these items tonight within this passage. I want to get a good read going. So let's grab ourselves into book of Bereishit, chapter number 16. Bereishit, chapter number 16. We'll do a very fast recap. Celia, I'm going to ask you to take us from Genesis, Bereishit, chapter 16, verses 1 through 7. And then as we moderate through that, guys, listen for me to raise my voice. Don't just keep reading. Listen for the voice raise so we'll know where to stop so we can talk if there's a need to talk. But let's get this storyline down with Sariah, Avram. Now, before I hit that, does anybody know why in our notes last week we discussed the fact that Israel made Egypt pretty much, in a lot of ways, what it is? Anyone?
Celia.
Okay, all right, go.
The years that they spent as more or less slaves to them, they built all of the pyramids and the statues for the pharaohs and their powers that was there. So everything that you see was actually on their back.
Okay. Anybody can take me back further and deeper?
Roundtree.
Okay, Roundtree, go.
Joseph was the son of one of the children of Israel. And so when he came into power into being, he became the second in charge, and he was the one that was able to set up all the infrastructure that they had. So that actually when the children of Israel, all the family came in and they were in Goshen and they prospered, they had an infrastructure to work with.
You did too much, but you did okay. You brought the right person in. You brought the right season and time in. But it's not so much.
You're in the matrix, sir.
You have to start again, sir. We caught when you said I did too much but was in the right season. Then we didn't hear anything else.
You heard the I did too much part. Okay, you heard nothing else though. Okay. All right.
Well, you said I was in the right season. I heard that.
You know
We heard
what?
that.
Okay, all right. So real quick, who knows how they got their wealth? He didn't make the infrastructure that was already there, but he did add substantially to their wealth. Who knows how that took place? Does anybody know how? And if you don't, I'm not going to wait a long time to get a response. Does anybody know how they actually acquired such wealth in Egypt?
So yeah, during the famine, the way that it was set up, Joseph had them sell their land to the Pharaoh for them to buy the grain that they needed to survive. So Pharaoh collected a lot of wealth through the land of what everybody needed to survive. He brought. I'm not saying that clearly enough.
You're saying it, but and I'm good with what you're saying. We just need to make sure we say it rightly. Usef wasn't responsible for that. Was not responsible for that, but Usef oversaw it. He did not make them sell their land and cattle and children and selves. Y'all got to realize that when Israel, when Usef came into to becoming Zaphanath Paneah, which is what his Egyptian name would become. He in fact was responsible for the oversight of the silos, that he was actually responsible for engineering, because he was able and was the one who actually got the interpretation of the dream to Pharaoh. All right. So with that being said, his understanding of the way that the monies needed to be collected was clear. But more importantly, he was not responsible for making them sell themselves, but he did oversee it because that was his job under Pharaoh. All right. But in light of this, Zaphanath Paneah is the one who interpreted the dream, and in him interpreting the dream, he also is now responsible for overseeing the administration of those silos. 7 years they gathered, and when they gathered for 7 years, there became 7 years of famine. So by the time those 7 years of famine was over, as we'll read later on in the book of Bereishit, and by the time those 7 years of famine came on, and people started running out of their own product, they began to buy from Pharaoh, and he was the only one who had it. Other nations even bought from him. People came from far and near. That's how Usef, that's how Yaakov and them got there as well. So are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes, sir.
And then you have the scenario where, as I think it was C was referencing, that they sold their land. Now, Usef did not, suggest that. That's Pharaoh, but he did oversee it. So they sold, and people offered their land just to eat. They're like, look, I don't need this land here. Just give me grain for this land. So land, watch this, flocks, herds, people became capital. I said it, people became capital. They sold their children into labor for Pharaoh for however many undescribed amounts of years for grain just so they can live. They sold their families, their entire families, into servitude of the Pharaoh just so they could live, because the times got that bad and only Pharaoh had grain. So I don't think that we do a good enough job in Christendom explaining how powerful Israel came, how powerful Egypt came under Israel, with Israel alongside of them, and what all went on. So bodies, humans. They were families were selling their children into servitude, not necessarily slavery, but servitude, just so their family could live. So if you had to take one for the team, this is what that would look like. And then there was also anything else that could be sold for grain was sold, and Pharaoh became the richest nation on the planet during that time. No one pays attention to that because we don't talk about it, but you learned something new today. All right. Okay, so let's move on to another space here. Let's get into the written out of Bereishit chapter number 16. Everybody ready?
Yes.
All right, chapter 16, Bereishit chapter 16. Again, listen for my voice and then stop immediately, but don't lose your space in the event we come back to you. Go. Genesis, Bereishit 16, verse 1.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to her voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her handmaid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid unto thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahweh judge between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And then Sarai dealt hardly with her. She fled from her face. And an angel of Yahweh found her by the fountain of water, in the wilderness, by the fountain, in the way of Shur. 1-7.
Okay, thank you. And so we found out here that Sarai goes to Abraham after her maid decides to, basically look down on her like, you ain't, I got some ice cream. I got some ice cream. You ain't got no ice cream. You ain't got no. So she starts to mess with Sarai because she's the one who produced the seed for Abraham. She produced a child from his seed. And she begins to disdain Sarai as if she now has moved into the number one top slot. So this is like, in her opinion, she's first lady, which is never the case. So Sarai, in her anger and her frustration, it's funny how she started this. Now it's panning out. She like, yeah, this your fault, man. Okay, well you did bring her to me, sis. Yeah, I don't care. My fault be on you. You the man. And so she's like, and because of it, she's this way. Abraham is like, all right, look, we partners. Real talk. If I messed up, we gonna be messed up here together. So here's the deal. Um, this is your house. You know that there is nobody above you. I wouldn't have never walked to her if you didn't bring her to me. So here's the deal. You deal with her as you need to. You deal with her as you need to. She's your maid. She's now my wife because of you. She has our son because of you. So you in charge. Handle it. So he gives her back authority, not in a negative way, but in a really great way, dealing with what marriages should look like any old way. But that's just the reality of that scenario. So now, when she gets this done, Sarai deals harshly with her. She getting her payback. That's why people have to always. Everybody knows who's in charge. Because people who are not in charge, if you don't tell them they're not in charge, they'll think they are in charge and keep moving things forward and bringing division in the house. Now, if Hagar had not said anything and just absorbed her responsibility or her charge at that point, she would probably not gotten kicked out. But we got to keep that mindful. So it's always good that there's instructions. So Abraham lets it be known. This is it. Saraya's in charge. Hagar, if you acting like that, you tripping. And whatever Saraya says, because Hagar is the boss. Whatever Saraya says, Hagar, Saraya is the boss. All right? So we did what was done. You brought forth what was brought forth, but you getting it twisted. Saraya is the boss. All right, and Abraham makes that known. And then he tells Saraya, because at this point, Hagar is like, well, I got this child. He's not going to deal badly with me. And, I'm good with him. He good with me. But Saraya is not being treated rightly. So Abraham is like, look, Saraya, you got that. Put it in check. You the boss. You put it in check. And she does. The problem is, like most petty situations, she decides to, as it were, deal with her harshly, getting her payback for what went on. And that's where that is at. So I don't want y'all to forget about that. I want y'all to think about that and chew on that, and let that be a lesson that you now are seeing through the text that you may not have seen previously. All right, so now Saraya deals with her harshly. What does Saraya do next? Saraya puts her out of the camp. When Saraya puts her out of the camp, she tells her very simply, basically, you out. Get out. You and the boy. So verse 5, Saraya tells him, verse 6, she tells him to get out. Verse 6 says, but Abraham said unto Saraya, behold, your maid is in your hand, as it please you. And when Saraya dealt harshly with her, she fled from her face. Pardon me, she didn't put her out yet, but she does run. She runs from Saraya. She runs from her face. And the angel of Yahweh Tzebaoth, found her in a fountain, by a fountain of water. Here we go with this water again. In the wilderness, in a wild place, by the fountain in the way of Shur. Okay? Now, Shur is a very interesting place for most of us, and we need to pay attention to where Shur is. Shur is in the region of a desert. Okay, so she's very, like, this well is sort of kind of important to that region. So she's run there and she stops, I'm certain, because after Shur, or after this fountain, there is the region of Shur, which is a desert. Where are you going to run to? Where are you going to go to? All right. Now, Minister Wanda, pick up verse number 8, and let's kick in from there.
And the angel of Yahweh said, Hagar, Saraya's maid, whence comest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I fled from the face of my mistress Saraya. And the angel of Yahweh said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of Yahweh said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of Yahweh said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because Yahweh hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man.
Let's pause right here, because I actually made a mistake. Abraham had not yet seen the child. The child is not yet born. So y'all forgive me. I was in error. I had hyper speeded up past this part. But Abraham has not yet seen the child, but it is clear that, Saraya gives Abraham to Hagar. Hagar is feeling some kind of way because she's smashing. I'm sorry. She is with the big dog. I'm sorry. She with the big dog now, and making Saraya feel some kind of way, right? And Saraya like, this chick then got besides herself, right? Okay. Now, what the angel does tell her is that, listen, we have no other choice but to bless Abraham and anything that comes out of him. Now, you go back and submit to your servant, to submit to your mistress. Now, it's interesting because when she sees the angel says, what's the problem? She says, what does she say? Anybody know what she says? What does Hagar say to the angel when he says, where are you going to? What's going on with you? Anybody know?
Yolanda. She says, Yolanda. I flee from the face of my mistress Saraya.
Ooh, what she say again? What she say again?
I flee from the face of my mistress Sariah.
Now, see, if she said I flee from my husband's ex, um, that'd have been. I'm sorry. That'd have been a different conversation. She does admit that Sariah is still even though she was getting and disdaining Sariah, she realizes now Sariah is in fact the head dog. Remember what I told y'all a long time ago? Yahweh can only bless y'all when we are willing to be submitted to that thing that we should be submitted to. And until we do like the deeds say, Yahweh is my shepherd, I shall not want. Until you tell your husband, you are my husband, until a husband tells his wife, you are my wife, they're really not in that posture, in that position. So you're not informed to receive. You're not informed to receive the potential blessings that should and could fall your way. Now, I really want to touch that gently, but I want to really make sure you get it. So this particular person, she submits. She tells the angel, I'm running from somebody I just been dogging out, talking negative about in the camp, thinking that I was a head dog. I realized that I'm put back in my place, and they just use me for my body. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to really be his wife. So I am literally, I realize now, I got beside myself. I am my mistress's servant. Now, many of y'all won't read it that way because you don't think it take all that. But in order for this girl to be blessed, even though she is an Egyptian and she is now a part of the Abrahamic household, and she's been so for some time, she now, by saying and admitting her position, y'all got to get this, she now knows exactly, the angel knows exactly how to bless her. Because if she was contentious about her issue, and she go like this heifer, then I'm sorry. This woman, I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all okay if I talk to y'all? Can I talk to y'all like Bible book club talk? Okay. So this chick, she done got me to get with her man, and now she gonna act all she done come out, she getting all new, and her coming out her bag all new and all this and all that. And he don't even really want her anyway. No, she was just like, okay, yeah, I got in my feelings, I got out my way, and I'm running from my mistress. The angel now was released to bless her. I've always asked Yahweh, what would it have been like if she had not said, I'm running and fleeing from my mistress? What would have been her plight? What would have been her giving? Still had the seed of Abraham. But the angel said something very key to her. Anybody know what the angel replied?
Yolanda, his reply was, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hands.
Right. Return to your mistress, because that's what he tells her. She's made it clear. This is my mistress. I goofed up. I messed up. What do you think about that, Pastor?
You know what? You went out. Are you talking to me?
Yes, Yolanda. She makes that. He makes that statement to her. What do you think about that? How do you feel about hearing that now that we've given you a little bit more backdrop to that? What do you think?
Well, it seems like he's putting it back. Making sure she's in order and in position for his next statement, which is, I'll multiply your seed exceedingly. Yeah, I hadn't seen that whole situation as, because I always wonder why she had to go back. But yeah, he's putting her back in her proper position.
She put herself back. Here's the catch. See, some of us, even though we got problems in house, until we actually put ourselves back in position, it's almost like a form of introspection. She had to get a rude awakening. Y'all know what I'm talking about? She got a real rude awakening. Sarai was like, chick, look here. You're not even in the side. You're not even the side chick. You know what I mean? I gave you permission to be whatever took place. Now, y'all might not like this and think I'm being carnal, but some of y'all won't get the message unless I can bring it from a carnal perspective. Because we don't know how to get past our so religious and righteous attitude about what God has said, and God had said, yeah, right. So she puts her in check. She then, watch this, she puts herself back in proper position. She's pregnant. She's in the valley of Shur. It's a desert. Where is she going to go? Now she is run out by a well. She fled from in front of her master. She runs out to a well. She's, of course, she realizes where she's at. They make that very specific that Shur is a desert. Where is a pregnant woman going to go in the desert without the resources of how she got out there? I need y'all to talk to me like y'all understand this text. I see y'all not going to share this with nobody today. Okay, we're going to make this a short class then. But do y'all understand? Are y'all seeing this with a different set of eyes?
I am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you're in the matrix.
So sorry about that, guys. So what I love about what she does is she puts herself back into permission, back into submission. Woo! Ladies, when is the last time that knucklehead joker man, bum, lazy bum that you married to got you all upset and you got in an argument and then you went to go pray to God and God says, where you at, daughter? And you like, you better get this joker you gave me. He getting on my nerve. When's the last time any of y'all said, I ran from the face of my husband? All right, Bible Book Club was fun. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you next week. Bereishit chapter 16, verse and nope, nobody biting.
We're not married.
Nobody biting.
We're not married.
We know.
We're not married.
Okay.
I'm
to
single.
all the single people, who have been in relationships, when's the last time you submitted? Okay, y'all work, y'all got jobs, right? When the last time you submitted to your boss and went to pray to God about the boss?
Every day.
Yahweh, I'm running from the face of my boss. Instead of saying I'm running from the face of this chick who's trying to act like she owned me. I ain't no Hebrew slave. Who she thinks she talking to? He think he talking to. He don't recognize. She don't recognize. I wills if I has to. I'll make sure of it. How many of y'all have been able to resubmit yourself under your boss and be like, okay, all right, I'm resubmitting myself to my spouse, to my boss. See, so, yeah. I really thoroughly, firmly believe that she was not only blessed because of the fact that Abraham had the blessing on his life, that Yahweh told him previously, I will bless them that bless you, Abraham. I will curse them that curse you, Abraham. It's not just that, but she herself gets blessed in this process. And she now releases this blessing even the more so on her and her seed, because she submits. She's like, okay, I realize it. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? They are in control. They got charge of me. And shoot, man, this is it. This is where I'm at. I'm running from my boss. I'm running from my boss because I ain't got no way out of this desert. I really firmly believe that she put herself in position by submitting and saying to the blessor, you know, I messed up. I'm submitted here. I'm gonna stay submitted here, and that's just the way it's gonna be. And then the angel tells her, go and submit yourself to yours. All right. So that's an interesting piece. I believe that there's a lot of times that we actually lose our blessings, or we actually forfeit a lot of what can be done to us because we will not readjust where we are and realize, you know what? I am still under this covering. And no matter what, I am under this covering.
Amen. So true.
Wanda.
So these are the things we need to make sure we are conscious and aware of. All right, very quickly, each person got 30 seconds. See Mystique go, and then Wanda next. Go.
So, and all joking aside, there was, while I was married, a situation where I decided I was going to leave. And Yahweh kind of sort of says, no, I didn't give you permission to leave, and you need to return because that is still my husband. So, and it's a humbling thing that you got to
Right.
bite your tongue and deal with.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, it's
Okay.
hard to do.
Cool. But it's doable. But the point of this is she actually made it herself, and she says, I'm fleeing from my mistress. The things you say activate the provisions of Yahweh. All right, go ahead. Thank you for adding that. See, Wanda, Minister Wanda, go.
I was just thinking that I'm sure that it was not easy for her to want to go back and submit.
Okay.
But even saying it out of her mouth, she was willing to do it because, I mean, Sarah wasn't she didn't make it easy for her. And she put her in that position, although she got beside herself. So that's what I was thinking.
All right. Well, here's what I want to say, because you said, I'm sure it wasn't easy for her to do it. I don't think see, we live in a different dynamic. So to both of your testimonies, great ads, but now let's make them teachable moments. She didn't willingly, she didn't like subjectively say it. She willingly said this. Where else is she gonna go? And it couldn't have been too hard, because she got back what she put out. Those are facts. Just read the text. She got beside herself. She despised Sariah. Suddenly. Now, is Sariah right for giving it back to her like she did? Well, today's modern day Christendom probably will say no. But facts are, that's what took place. She got back a lot of what she sowed. And then she got her own self checked. Like, wow, shoot. I ran from my mistress. I don't think it was an issue of her having to say she was my mistress, because she's always been her mistress. So I don't want us to get contorted in that conversation piece. And the testimonies you guys are giving the truth, especially modern day. But, I'm trying to make sure we understand that it requires us often enough times to check ourselves, even when we're having conflict, to where we're being put out by someone who has sort of kind of control over, or some type of governor over anything that can flow to us. Yahweh needs to make sure we will put ourselves in a place of subjection, especially if it's a previous contract, before we come to him complaining about the contract. This way, he knows, like we know, we put ourselves there, and now he can really work with us to get out of it. So this angel says to her, good. Next thing he says to her, Pastor Yolanda, was, go and submit yourself. You said she's your boss. Now go submit yourself. Woo! That's the hard part.
That's what I mean.
Okay, it didn't come out that way, but okay. Because it wasn't hard for her to say it. If anything was difficult, was for her to do it. But then again, you're in a slave culture. You're in an inhabited. You're in a slave culture. You're in a indentured servant type of society, and all of that means something. All of that matters, and that's a very key and keen element that happens there. All right, take us now to. Okay, Daphne, go.
So,
Daphne?
Apostle, by her identifying herself, she also, like you said, being in that environment that she was in, she also pointed out that she was owned by someone, because just to say she's rampant and roaming out in the desert by herself, her faith could have turned for another direction. So when she said, from my mistress, that told that she was owned by someone. So she did have a place to return back to.
Correct. She places herself back under that element of her mistress. And however that looks, it's her submitting and subjecting herself. Basically, she checked herself. Now it took for Sarai to get in a grill, but she ended up checking herself. Great point. Good ad, Daphne. Good ad. C. Good ad, Wanda. All right, Wanda, take us now to next verse.
Verse 11, and the angel of Yahweh said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and thou shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because Yahweh hath heard thy affliction, and he will be a wild man.
Now, this is the interesting part to me. In verse number 10, he says, the angel said, I'm going to multiply your seed exceedingly. It shall be numbered for multitude. Then goes on to state, and he says, you are with child. You're going to bear a son. His name will be Ishmael. The word Ishmael here in the Hebrew means, Ishmael means God will hear. Elohim will hear. Okay? And these are the things that need to be really understood, that Elohim will hear. So y'all talking like they won't, but Elohim hears Ishmael's cry. He hears his mother's affliction. Okay? Now he then goes on to tell them, because of what y'all did, where y'all been, verse 12, read.
And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren.
So the truth of this matter is that's exactly what's happening today. Ishmael, being over some of the things that we are finding and attributing and associating to some very negative types of activities in the earthen realm, are considered wild men. They're considered as those who are acting wild. They are considered as those who are being wild. They will kill you in a minute, and the laws that they live under are different than the laws that Yahweh gave to them through the Torah. But at the end of the day, this prophecy is happening right now. Every man will be against any and every man. This is against any and every man. And if you're not with them, and then if you even of their bloodline and you're not with them, you won't be. They're going to live by the sword, and they're going to die by the sword. This is a prophecy. More importantly, you can't get rid of him, because he's going to dwell amongst his brethren, the ones that are coming after this, from Avram. So you would think that Palestinian and the Israeli borders, Golan Heights, all those areas over there in the Middle East, those wars are in part affected because by this prophecy. They're going to dwell there. You can try and kick them out all you want. Now you got to know that you make sure you dole out what Yahweh gave to who, but they are not leaving that area. That's why they know and they are entitled. And Christians are jumping into a conversation and a war that they got no business being in. That's a political statement. I'm not going to get into that right now. So he'll be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand will be against him in the presence of his brother. Verse number 13, would you read, please?
As she called the name of Yahweh that spoke unto her, Thou Elohim seest me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called Bereishit. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bare Avram a son, and Avram called his name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Avram was 86 old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abraham.
Now this place, this place is called Bela Keroi. Bela Creor. Bear, B-E-R. Bear la Heroi. All right. Now, what this means is the well of the living. It means as one that is my seer. Bear la Heroi. A place that is in that desert, a place where there is a well of living. Because she truly had not stopped at that well. Don't know where she would have stopped. And she's like, he sees me. He is my seer. He sees me no matter where I am. And this is where Ishmael and the Aramaic, the faith of Islamic, understands that they have they have a relationship with Creator. They may not do the way that Yahweh wants it done, but they do have an entitlement, and that's why you have the monotheisms under the Abrahamic element. All right. So Hagar does bear Avram a son. Avram called his son's name. By which Hagar bare Ishmael. Abraham was 60 years old when Hagar bare Avram. All right, I think we should take a fresh start and come back at chapter 17 on next week because we've already been in this for this past hour, and my voice has been taking a beating. But I want to make sure that we take opportunity to really pay attention to a lot of the nuances that go along, because chapter 17, things are about to get real thick. And we're going to start to understand where a lot of contention comes from. And I know for a fact, getting through verses 1 through 2 will be tough to do tonight of chapter 17. Just getting into it this late at the hour, we'll be going for a while. So we'll come back next week on the Bible Book Club, chapter number 17, and we will start from verse 1. Any questions or thoughts?
Wanda.
Minister Wanda, go.
I know we haven't gotten to 17 yet, but even though he's had Ishmael, he's still being called Avram. So I thought that was interesting.
Very much interesting, and I would hope that someone had saw that in verse 15, but nobody did. So, not that y'all didn't, but I just want to make sure people can catch it. I'm glad you caught it. We will talk about why that is in the next chapter.
Rogers.
Elder, go.
Shalom. I thought it was very interesting and about being submissive and being blessed because of humility and submissive. That just showed up for me in a whole nother light because I'd never really saw it like that before. And with that, I yield the mic.
Yeah, I'm gonna end that there too. But yeah, that's a very true thing, because most people don't realize that we think that being submissive means being somebody's beat up toy and ragamuffin and everything else, but it's not. Submission is a place where you can receive. When I submit myself to a vision, when I submit myself to an authority, there is an end to that plan. And so when she's like, all right, I've submitted myself, she now, because she doesn't buck against Sariah, who is Avram, now releases the blessing Yahweh put on Avram. I'll bless them that bless you, I'll curse them that curse you. When she is in that position while baby is in womb to say, I am submitted. I'm running from my mistress who runs and owns this. And that I really believe, we'll talk more about it, you'll see why in chapter 17 and 18, triggers for her. Not just the baby, but for her while she's alive. Triggers the blessings of provision, and now she knows Elohim in a completely different way. And that, my beloved brothers and sisters, is why we have 3 monotheisms. You're going to learn today. All right. Great job. Hope everybody got a chance to learn something. We're going to come back and deal with this a bit more next week. And we're just going to go ahead and let that be. All right, let's take opportunity to pray out, shall we? Great ad, everybody. See you guys again tomorrow for the preceding word. And we'll look forward to having those great things, those reveals coming out to the glory of Elohim. Father, we thank you for your word, and will thank you for the opportunity to read your word. We pray now that the words of our mouths, the meditations of our hearts have been acceptable in your sight. You are Yahweh, our Elohim. You are Yahweh, our strength. And you are Yahweh, our Redeemer. We ask now for these things to be made evident, that your word reigns supreme, and there is nothing we can do other than submit to you. Help us while we're going through at places that have some governor and some kind of semblance of order in our lives. Help us to learn to know our place. We'll always be above and not beneath. But help us when we run into conflict to know whose we are and who we are, so you can elevate us out of the situation we have ourselves in. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we say, Amen. All right, everybody, it's an enjoy talking and teaching with you guys. I hope that you guys get some rest tonight. Again, this is Apostle V.W. Jones Sr., and I say to you, Shalom Aleichem. This call will end in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Aleichem.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.